Welcome everyone to the Cafe of Knowledge. Thank y'all for tuning in today. We appreciate it. Please hit the like and subscribe. Like I always say, we don't ask for any Cash App money. We don't ask for y'all to send us any money, anything. I'm giving you all this knowledge, inventory knowledge, tracking, budgeting for free of charge. You don't have to pay anything to do this. So just only thing that we ask that you do is please hit subscribe. It's free. It don't cost you anything to just click, just press the subscribe button, please, and press like. Okay, now that we are finished with inventory, which was chapter 1, and then we did a review process after that. And then last week we did, last week was chapter 2. That's when we did the cashiers, the cash register, the bartender, tracking and knowing about all those things. How to track your cashiers and how to track the register, how to track your liquor, how to track your bartenders, how they ringing up things. So we got familiar with that last week, and that was in chapter 2 with the cashiers, registers, bartenders, and the liquor. This is chapter 3. Okay, this is chapter 3, and chapter 3 is basically we just gonna shoot right through troubleshooting your inventory. Okay, that's chapter 3, just troubleshooting your inventory. Okay, so let's get right on into that. We did go over a lot of little troubleshooting things that you can do to help improve your inventory. We did a couple of things, and we did kind of basically a lot of it, if not practically all of it, during our week 1 inventory process. Week 1 through week 8. We kind of covered a lot of ways to track and improve your inventory. And if you are a new subscriber and a new viewer, you can go back to week 1, level 1, all the way through week 8, level 8. Because we had 8 weeks of learning how to count inventory, how to start inventory, and how to keep track of inventory, how to order it, and all those good things. Okay, so but now we're just strictly on chapter 3, how to troubleshoot your inventory. And a lot of you already know that. If you've been keeping up with me each week, you already kind of know the basis of how to track it, but we're just going to go over it a little bit today, so you will just about know. You have to make sure that inventory can be, you could be a cashier, no inventory. You can be a shift leader, no inventory. Management team, no inventory. Corporate, no inventory. It's just best to know it, because then you can move up in your career as you want to, or as you see fit to do it. But you will have the knowledge to be able to make more money. So that's what this Cafe of Knowledge inventory tutorial process is all about. Okay, so now tracking inventory and troubleshooting inventory is just like an investigator. You have to investigate a lot of things if something is wrong. So if you're missing items, it seems like you can't find out why a certain thing is not selling better than other things, that's where you come in, and you have to know what to do in those situations. If you have a product in your store, and you've been having a product in your store for a while, for about a year, and it's really not selling that well, you might want to start trying to don't sell anymore, just sell out of that product, and then find a new product to take its place that you feel that'll sell quicker and bring you more money in quicker. Okay, so that's the process of that. Inventory must always be accurate from the beginning to the end count. Okay, we all talked about that and know that. You should always have a par level. Everybody know what a par level is. That shows your history of usage. That shows your par level. That's the amount that you need to order for your store. And it also shows you how much is being ordered, okay, and how much is being sold. So a par level is good, because if you don't have a par level on all your items, you would start over ordering for things or under ordering for things. Say, for instance, if you don't have a par level for milk. Now, your store usually sells about 50 gallons of milk a week. But if you don't know that, because you're not keeping track with your inventory or your par level, say if you don't even know that, you don't have a par level, you're not tracking your milk at all. You're just selling the milk and you ain't going through this inventory process, you know. You just don't feel like going through this inventory process. Well, that's when you will start ordering too much of that item, and then you spending too much money because you're ordering too much. Or you can under order and then you start running out of things. So that's why inventory does take long, as a tedious process to understand and learn, but once you have it, it's the best way for you to increase your money and the company money. And the more the company makes, the more they can be putting raises in your pocket, okay? And the more you can get promotions. So that's the reason for inventory, to make more money, bring more money to the profit line, to the bottom line, so that the company can make more money and you can make more money, okay? So when you're ordering too much, so say if you have 50 milks that you sell a week, but you don't know that, then you ordering, I want 60, 70 milks, and then you ordering too much because your store only sells 50 gallons of milk. But see, you don't know that because you're not taking the time to set the inventory par level process to find out how much milk are we selling each week. And whatever that amount is, that's the amount you keep in your store. Okay? But if you don't know that and you over ordering, you're going to have too much. And then if you have too much of milk, you're going to eventually have to throw it away. So you done paid for the milk, you wasted money that you didn't have to waste, and then you're throwing away product that you didn't have to throw away because you have too much of it, and the expiration date is already gone on it, so you have to throw it away. So now you're wasting money. You're wasting money, you're wasting room in the store. You could have more room to put other things in, but because you're ordering too much, you got a whole bunch of this and a whole bunch of that, and you're not even selling it. But because you don't keep up with inventory, it's just sitting on your shelf collecting dust, you know. And have anyone ever went inside of a gas station or went inside of a small store and you just want to run in there and buy something? You can see kind of dust on their flour, like right on the top, little dust up there. That means that flour been sitting there too long. And somebody is not doing inventory. Because if they was doing inventory, that lets you know there that that store probably don't even sell. They probably ain't sold flour in probably 3 months. So if they don't sell it, it'd be about 3 or 4 of them got dust on them. Well, they really didn't need to have all 3 of those. They probably could have had 1. But they really didn't need all 3 of those. Okay? Because it shows right there that the product is just sitting there. It's sitting there for a week. It's sitting there for a month. It's sitting there for 2 months. And it's just sitting there. Then, eventually, they look at the expiration date. They're going to have to throw that flour away. So they're throwing away flour that they really didn't have to throw away if they didn't order it. But if they had been keeping track with the inventory, they wouldn't have had all that flour to throw away. And then they just wasted money. They spent money buying it, but they didn't make anything off of it because they had too much and it done got old and they had to discard it. Okay, so that's the purpose of making sure that you have your inventory and you know your inventory is on track. So the part level and inventory, keeping track of it, makes sure you don't over order on things, and make sure you don't under order on things and you don't run out, because it ain't nothing like a customer coming in and asking you, do you have any flour or do you have any sugar? And you say, oh no, we out, and they have to go to another store. That stays in that customer mind, and if they ever need sugar again or whatever they was looking for, they won't come to you because you're always out. So that's the purpose of keeping track with inventory, to make sure that you have enough for your customers and you also have enough for your store. But you don't have too much and you don't have too little. Okay, so that's the purpose of that. We already talked about most companies, they do their inventory weekly. It doesn't matter where you at. If you're in a retail company, or if you in a restaurant company, or if you in say AutoZone, something like that, auto shop company or something, airport, anything like that, it doesn't matter. Inventory is all the same. All you have to do is count, keep track, and troubleshoot it. That's all you have to do, and keep bringing in that money. Once you do those things, you got it. It's no problem. It becomes easier and easier and easier each week you do it. Okay? And some companies track their inventory. Some companies do inventory every week. Some do it every 2 weeks. Some do it every month. I've known some that do it just once a year. But when you do it so far away like that, it takes the company longer to realize it's a problem. Okay? It's a problem within the inventory. And they don't win a whole year not knowing they had a theft problem, or they had they was ordering too much. They don't really know all this until it's too late, because they do their inventory so far apart. So that's how come most businesses do their inventory once a week. So that's how they go. Inventory counts also help. We just said, I just told you guys that it helps with under ordering and over ordering. Okay, and it also helps you know when there's a problem right off the top. And then when you know that there's a problem, say that you're missing sugar, which we did weeks ago, where we was missing items, and we went back to check for those items. We had to go back and we had to go recount. After we recount, we had to check the invoices, make sure that what was on the invoice is what we really received. Once we did all that and the item is still missing, then we know either the person didn't check in the truck correctly and they just signed off on it, or either we have a theft problem. Okay? And either two are not good. Okay? So that's how that goes. So we just have to make sure that we keep track of all those things. Okay? So then you have the people and employees will know that the company and its manager team are paying a close attention. So when your employees and the people see that this company or you are doing inventory once a week and you staying on track of stuff, the employees and stuff know that. And the people know that. And that stops them from theft, because they know you're counting it and they know you're on top of it. So they see you doing it all the time, so they know that you're staying on top of your product, on top of your money, on top of your ordering, and on top of everything. Okay, so it cuts down theft. And you have inventory has to be very, very accurate as well. Okay, and we always talk about that, and I always keep emphasizing that, because you have to make sure your count is always accurate. And like we said in the previous weeks, is that if you are missing inventory and you can't find it, you have to take a loss. You cannot say, oh, I ain't finna put that down there because it's going to look bad that you missing 10 sugars. And you say, well, I don't want to put that down there. No, you can't. Once you start, they call that padding and cheating. And once you start doing that, you're really cheating yourself. You're cheating the company. And then eventually you'll wind up going out of business because you're cheating your own self. Or the management team is cheating the business. And usually, if someone comes in and do an audit, if the corporate office or someone like that come in and do an audit on that store, and it comes to find out all your counts are wrong, then just about everybody on that management team or whoever's involved in it will probably get terminated, because they are not recording it accurately. You know, they not. So that's why it's always good to be honest when it comes to inventory. If you don't have it, you just have to take a loss. And if you can't find those 10 sugars, those 10 sugars might equal up to $50. Well, you have to take a $50 loss. And then the company, you have to tell the company, and the company will see it when you put in your inventory count and you finish doing all your inventory process that we talked about in the previous weeks. Once you finished all that inventory, it'll show up what's missing and what you don't have. And you just have to be able to explain what you're going to do to make sure that that sugar, amount of sugar, is not missing again. So you have to come up with an action plan to tell, okay, yes, I am missing 10 sugars, but this is what I'm going to do to correct the matter. And you have to put down an action plan to correct that matter. Okay, that matter. You're going to have to go and you're going to have to say, hey, I'm going to make sure from now on that I'm talking to the cashiers, and the cashiers know they have to ring up everything. I'm going to make sure that I tell the stock people who stock the sugar, hey, I've been missing sugar, and I want you to stock it where it's neat and we're not losing any sugar and ain't nobody walking out with the sugar. And then you're going to have to tell your security guard, hey, watch it, because I think I got people that's stealing my sugar. So can you keep an eye on this little area for me right quick, because somebody is taking sugar, or either it didn't come off the truck, either one. But that's when you have to go to your management team as well, and the managers all have to be alerted that, hey, look, when you're checking in the truck, make sure that that sugar is coming in off that truck, because you could be just signing it and was in a hurry and you didn't even check to see that you didn't even get sugar in off the truck. Okay, so it's stuff like that you have to be careful with, and you have to understand to do it. Okay, always make sure that inventory is one of the main cores that keep operating a company. Okay, without inventory, your company can't operate. So you got to make sure that you have your inventory intact. Okay, now when you know exactly what inventory you have on hand and where the inventory is in the store, you can retrieve it quickly. Like if somebody say, hey, you know where the salt is? Oh yeah, it's on aisle such and such. Or hey, I'm looking for stockings. Do you know where the stockings is? Oh yeah, it's over on that way. If somebody come in a hair salon or a beauty supply store and say, hey, I'm looking for a cap, a nightcap, they'll say, okay, yeah, that's on aisle such and such. Usually everybody who's involved with inventory know exactly what aisle something is on. And sometimes if you've just been working in that company for a while, or that store in a while, you automatically start knowing where things are. But definitely an inventory person knows exactly where everything is. Okay? So now we're going to go into inventory that is properly tracked provides a company the opportunity to measure its success. So when you know that you're tracking inventory properly and you know your inventory is going smooth, then you automatically know that your company is operating in success. Okay? So you know that right off the bat. Because a successful inventory tracking means some company losing only one item per month can hurt you. So if you even losing one item a month, that can hurt you. You know, that's why we said that we use a weigh sheet, because anytime an employee or anybody wastes, or a customer can break a bottle of ketchup or something like that, you can put it on the weigh sheet so that when you do inventory, it's going to show that that ketchup is missing. But at least when you go to the weigh sheet, you can account for where that ketchup is and what happened to that ketchup. Oh, there go that ketchup. It broke and we had to throw it away. So, okay, we'll take a loss off that ketchup, but we know what happened to it. It was an accident. You don't want that something comes up missing and nobody can find it, nobody can track it, nobody knows where it's at. It just went out the door. That you don't want. Okay? So, make sure that when you ordering, you controlling your ordering process. Meaning that we talked about how when you order things, that you make sure that the prices are correct. You make sure that the prices match what you put inside the computer is what is on your invoice. Okay? And as long as those two match, your inventory is balancing out. Okay? But if your computer has $2 for something and your invoice has $3 for that same thing, then you know it's a price difference. And you have to correct that price inside of that computer to make it what the price is on your invoice for everything to balance out. Okay? And on your invoices, you know, your invoice should tell what company at the top that your product came from. So we ordered from Vet Styles, that invoice should have at the top, Vet Styles. And then it should have the vendor's phone number. Then it should have what you ordered. And then once that truck comes and you make sure you have everything, that truck driver has to sign that invoice, and then you sign that invoice. That way, that when you do inventory, you can see who signed that invoice. And whoever signed that invoice is responsible for the items that came in. Because they are saying that, yes, all of this stuff came in. And I checked it. So everything is here. Now, if that person don't check that invoice and it comes out to be that those items didn't come off the truck, then that person who signed that invoice is responsible for that. And that person will most likely get a write-up or have some type of reprimand, or they'll have some type of, something will happen. But so that's why when you are checking in a truck, you make sure you are checking it in correctly. Okay? So, and you have to check for any damages and all that stuff. So, we went through all of this in the previous weeks. Okay? We talked about when you have items that's in your store for so long and not selling, it's time to discontinue that item. It's time to say, okay, you could tell in inventory. Each week, say if you have a green magic marker and nobody is really buying that, or let's say that it's a new type of toy you order. And that toy, every time you count inventory, you have 20. Then the next week you count inventory, you still got 20. That means ain't nobody buying it, right? You still got 20. Then the next time you count inventory, you still got 20. You ain't sold not one of those toys in 3 weeks. And then the next week, it's still at 20. Then say about 2 or 3 months later, it's still at 20. Well, that means, just nobody probably wants it. So then what you would try to do is take that toy and put it kind of in the front of the store where it can be seen by everybody. That's what these stores do. Like when you walk into a store, you'll see right when you first walk in, they will probably have a barbecue grill. They'll probably have some toys. They'll probably have something when you first walk in, because that's the item that they're trying to get you to get. Okay? So when you put that toy in the front of the store, when people walk past, they can see it all the time. As soon as they walk past, they can see it, and whenever they go into the register, they can see it. And say you're doing inventory still, and it's still at 20. Nobody wants it. Nobody. You done had the toy for 6 months, and it's still at 20. Well, now it's time to discontinue that toy, meaning that it's time for you to get rid of that toy. And what you would do is put that toy on sale, and then once it's go on sale, and once you drop it to a low price, then people be like, oh, okay, that's 50 cents. I get that. And it probably was originally $4. But you trying to get it out the door because you've been holding on for it for 6 months now, or almost a year, and it's not doing anything. So you'll try half price, maybe from $4 to $2. We're still not moving, then you have to drop it from $2 to $1 until it moves. And then once it moves, you know not to order that anymore because don't nobody like it. And then you'll find something else that people do like in toy fashion, because you got to replace something with the same thing you're discontinuing. And then you try to, but you want to make it a better choice, and then you'll find something that everybody wants and everybody like, and then that's what you will start ordering, and then you'll see how well that goes. So that's how you discontinue an item if it's not selling. Okay. Let's talk about also, you have to know when it's how your turnover is, and that's what we're talking about. When something sells a lot, and every week you ordering that product, you put it out there, whatever, and then it keeps selling and it keeps selling, that means you have a good turnover. They call that turnover. When something constantly keeps selling, you keep bringing money in for it, then you'll order some more, put it out there, and people keep buying it, and that's a good turnover. Okay, but for that toy, for instance, that wasn't moving, that's not a good turnover at all, because nobody's buying it, and when you're not bringing in money off of it, you're not turning it over. But for products that moves well, that's a good turnover. Okay, that's what it called, inventory turnovers. Okay, so you have to make sure that that's going on correctly. Okay. Let's go over some troubleshoots, okay? Missing inventory could be a sign of theft, a theft problem in the store. We talked about that. We know how to track that to see. We know what to do in that manner, okay? Sometimes when your inventory is missing and you tracking it down and you know it's missing, and like we always say, you can hold a store meeting. That's when managers hold store meetings. And then they tell the employees, hey, we've been missing this. We don't know what's going on. But some stores will lock that product inside of a locked cage because people are stealing it. Okay, you ever go, we talked about this a couple of weeks back, that you ever go into a store and some of their items are behind a locked glass. That's because they're having problems with that item being stolen. That means every time they do inventory, those items are missing. The computer's saying that they didn't sell it, but the inventory count showing that it's missing. So that's when they start taking those products and putting it behind locked glass or a locked cage or whatever. And then you have to go and get a sales associate or an employee to come and unlock it for you so you can buy that product. And some stores, they'll get it out for you. You can pick it, say, yeah, that's what I need right there. They'll take it, and then they'll say, it'll be at the register when you finish shopping. That's because they ain't trusting nobody with that product, because that product keep coming up stolen, missing. Okay? So that's how they troubleshoot and make sure that they don't have no more theft with that certain or that particular item. Okay? Some businesses, they look at their security cameras and make sure that they see who is stealing this item or what's going on with this item. So that's why I always tell cashiers, employees, everybody, don't steal from your company, because it's gonna come out. And you think it's not, but it will, because they tracks these things. So where you think that a friend come through your line and you can slip them a piece of bubble gum, or you can slip them a piece of a head of cabbage, or you can sneak them some sugar in a bag and they don't ring it up and all that, it's going to show when they do inventory that these things are missing. And when it shows, they trying to figure out, well, either how did it get out the door? Then that's when they'll start looking at their surveillance tapes and seeing, did the cashier let it go out the door? Did a stock person steal it on their break? Did a customer steal it? They'll start investigating, and that's troubleshooting. They're trying to see what happened to their product. So whether you think that, oh, they'll never know, yes, they will. That's why I tell everybody, when you're working in a place like that, you're dealing with people's product. People had to spend, the company had to spend money for that product, all of that. They are going to track their stuff down, okay? If they're missing money out their register, they're going to look on the camera and see who stole that money. And if they don't have a camera, by tracking inventory, it automatically turns an arrow to a certain person. Whether it's a stocker or whether it's a cashier. It's going to tell on you. Okay? So, that's how you troubleshoot on that. Make sure that all your departments, your coolers, if you're in a restaurant or you're working in a grocery store, a supermarket, you make sure that you know when things expires. Meaning that when things come in, they all have dates on them and expiration dates on them. And that's when most people move the items to the front that's getting ready to expire. And then the items that just came in, they put them in the back of that item. And that's how you have to keep rotating your inventory. Whatever comes in goes in the back. Always. Okay? And then by that time, the ones in the front will be running out. And then you just move it closer. And then whatever comes in, that goes behind that item. Okay? So we'll talk about that too. It's called first in, first out. Last in, last out. They have that, and we'll go into that in a couple of more weeks on how to rotate those kind of things, okay? But right now, we're just talking about troubleshooting. Just make sure that your areas are very neat, because that's how you can keep track of your inventory too. You have to have a very neat department. Every department has to be very neat. Meat department has to be neat. Beauty supply department got to be neat. Wherever store you working at, each department has to be neat. Okay? That way it's easy to count, it's easy to track, it's easy to look at and know what you're looking at. It's easy. But if you got stuff thrown all over the place and it's not organized, it's hard to count and track inventory that way. Okay? So make sure you remember that. You have sometimes, I have been into a couple of my stores and you would see a case of chicken. A case of chicken, like a case of chicken fingers, sitting right at the back door. And all the management and everybody is so busy, but the case of chicken is sitting at the back door. And, you know, case of chicken supposed to be in the cooler or in the freezer. Why is it at the back door? And sometimes I have, you know, had a problem where it was one of the cooks or one of the employees that when they got ready to do the trash, you know, because at a certain time of the day, everybody runs the trash and empties the trash out in the back, they'll take that case of chicken right on out with them and put it in their car. Will we know that that case of chicken is missing? Yeah, when we do inventory, we're going to know that case of chicken was missing. You know, and then it's going to show up on the inventory. And when it shows up and tell us when we do inventory that a case of chicken was missing, in that case, the chicken wasn't never able to be missing because I caught it. And I was asking, who put this chicken at the back door by the trash? Because they was waiting to do a trash run, is what they call it, when you take out all the trash and then they'll take out that case of chicken right along with them and put it in the trunk of their car and then keep on going like ain't nothing going on. So, I caught that one. But that's the type of things that happens in stores. That they will put it to the back door. And then when you open up the back door for everybody to, some people take a cigarette break, or some people take a lunch break, or some people take out the trash or whatever, they'll take those cases or whatever they put back there right on out with them. And 9 times out of 10, the manager's going to be thinking that it's trash. They're going to think it's an empty box, but really it's a full box. That's why they always say make sure all the boxes are broken down after they are used. You make sure they all, that's the purpose of people breaking down boxes. When you go into stores and you see all the boxes are broke down flat on a cart or something like that, they have to break those down so that everybody will know that it's empty. And can't nobody steal anything. So that's a lot. So you have to keep track of all that stuff because little sneaky stuff like that goes on. You know. Also, these are for people who work in restaurants, and if you if you want to, this is you being an inventory person, or you probably a shift leader or a manager or whatever. But when you're in a restaurant and they measure a lot of things, they measure cheese, and they measure lettuce, and they measure this and they measure that, and they, you know, it's a lot of things that they measure. And sometimes, like they say, if you're making a salad and the people in the restaurant are making a salad and they use 1/4 cup of cheese on the salads, because some salads are already pre-made, and say they are already making the salads, and it takes 1/4 cheese to make that salad. It's good to always bag 1/4 cheese up in the bag. You'll take a cup, 1/4 cheese, pour it into like a Ziploc bag, zip it up, put a date on it, and then pre-portion it. So if you sell 10 of those salads a day, it's good to have 10 bags of those cheese already in a Ziploc bag, portioned out. That way you're not using too much cheese. You're using exact amount it takes to make that salad. But if you got people back there just putting their hand in the cheese and just sprinkling the cheese on every salad, They might be using too much cheese, or they might be using too much, not enough cheese. And that's when your inventory come off balance. When people are using too much. And we talked about this last week the same way with the liquor. We talked about it, how they just pour liquor and pour liquor and pour liquor, and then they are not measuring that liquor. And it's the same way with the food. If they're not measuring it, then they're going to be using more, which is called food costs. They're going to be costing you a whole lot on purchasing food because they're not measuring the products. So it's always good. Anything that need like 1/4 cheese or 1/4 Parmesan cheese or whatever the portion is good to portion those amount out in a Ziploc bag. And when people get ready to make the salad, they use the Ziploc bag and then they pour it onto the salad, because that's the correct amount it takes to make that salad, instead of everybody just estimating the amount of 1/4 cheese and not measuring it. That will hurt your food costs as well. So that's another thing of troubleshooting. Anything that need to be measured or anything like that for us food wise, pre-portion it out. Just pre-portion it out, because that's the way a lot of stores do it, to keep track with their inventory. Okay? I think that's kind of basically it. Oh, and you have when receiving a shipment from a vendor, put the dates on there, and we talk about that. Every time your things come in from a vendor, you want to put the dates on everything that's in like the stock room, not the dates that goes out like for milk and all that. You don't have to write anything on that. But when it come in the case and you got everything stocked up there, you want to put like some little stickers with a date on it, or you want to write a date on it that lets you know when that item came in. Okay? So that way when items come in behind it, you'll put the date on that. That way you know which items came in first, which items came in last. Okay? Because the items have the dates on them, then you can automatically look at the date and say, ooh, it's time to sell this. It's time to sell this, or we need to sell this within a couple of days so we don't lose money, or else we're going to have to throw it away. So you have to make sure of all that stuff. Okay? And we already talked about order only by your part level. Do not order anything that you don't need. Okay? Order by your part level. It's a lot of businesses I have went to. They have so much stock in their warehouse, and they've been holding on to that stock for I don't know how long. Their warehouse is just stocked, and they're not using that stuff yet. So that means it's a waste of money in the warehouse because they're not using it. They didn't have to order all that stuff at that time. They could just order it when they need it. But they be having so many boxes stocked up. Like say you have toys, and they got 50 cases of toys, when they probably ain't gonna go through all 50 of those cases until probably 6 months from that time. So why do you have it in the store? You just wasted money. All that money you could have saved by not ordering it and just waiting to order as needed with the part level. That's the thing about spending too much money that you don't need to spend. And it's sitting in the warehouse. The money is just sitting in the warehouse because it's not being used yet. Because it probably will be another 4 months before they get to those cases that's back in the warehouse. That's kind of a waste of money. That is a waste of money. Okay? Because that could have been money still in the company's bank account or your bank account and not sitting up in the warehouse. Okay? So things like that, that's what you call ordering too much. Okay? Do not leave your delivery people unattended. When people come and deliver you an order, the truck driver or whatever, don't leave them unattended in your store. Stay right there while they're bringing in your product, and you check your product and look to see if any damages or anything like that. And after that, and you make sure you have everything, then you sign off on that invoice. But a lot of people will let the truck driver in and then run back and finish doing what they doing up front somewhere. You don't know what that truck driver doing. You don't know if he bringing it in and putting it right back on his truck. You don't know, because it has happened, and we'll get into that later too. Okay, so you just don't leave delivery people unattended in your store. All this stuff is a troubleshooting thing that'll help you prevent theft and prevent people from being dishonest. Okay, you're just staying on top of it and making sure that you have everything in your store that's supposed to be in your store. Okay. A lot of lighting in the store. There's some people that they don't have too much lighting in their store. Like, you have to, when you go into the store, you notice how bright it is. That's so that the security cameras can get a good look, and you can get a good look. Only thing that really should be dim is probably when you go out to a night venue or something like that. Other than that, your store should be lit up, you know. And you always make sure that you keep track of your cashiers and your bartenders. We talked about that last week, about your cashiers and your bartender, because I know some bartenders that, just like we talked last week, that if you are missing, when you count and your register say, or your inventory count say that you sold 2 bottles of tequila, 2 bottles of tequila, and it says you sold that, but then you go and you look and you're missing, 2 of them are missing, because the inventory is accounting for 2 of the bottles of liquor, but it's 2 liquor bottles missing. So that's when you have to go back and make sure you didn't count wrong. And you know how we did in all the previous weeks. We have to check the invoice and see that it come in and see that we have it and all that. And once everything is correct and we are really missing 2 bottles of liquor, then that means your bartender is pouring too much, and she's hooking up, or she is hooking up, or he is hooking up his friends, or either they stealing it, okay, or either it really didn't come off the truck like the person who signed the truck said. So you have to tackle and see which one of them it is, and neither one of them is good. Okay, so that's how you do that. So just make sure that you always track all that stuff right there. Okay. All your money should be removed from the cash register at nighttime. You know, when the store is closing up or whatever, there shouldn't be any money in your cash registers, because I'm telling you now that if you get broke into or something happened, that's the first place a burglar goes or a robber goes. Try to break the cash register. So you just make sure none of that is in there. You always keep your inventory fresh. And we talked about that. The way to keep your inventory fresh is to go by your part level. Because just about when things are running low, you order. And then you order just enough that it holds your store for that entire week or until you do inventory again. And then, you know, you just keep doing it. You keep doing it. That's how your inventory stay fresh. And that's what we call about the turnover. Because your items are moving constantly, and you got just enough to satisfy your customers to where you won't run out. Okay? So that's when you know your items are fresh, because of that, and how you rotate. Remember we were talking about the old comes in the front and the new go in the back, and it just continues like that. Okay. When a cashier have too many voids, or a cashier have too many shortages, or a cashier have too many, she's over on the cash, and all those things hurt you. So you have to make sure that the cashier is well trained to where they don't have cash shortages, they don't have a lot of voids, and they don't have money over. Mean they didn't give somebody the correct change back, because their register is over money. You see, and none of those are good, because if you're cheating the customer, then the customer gonna be mad. They'll call back down there and be like, hey, I was supposed to have $5 in change and they only gave me $1. You know, and then that person, you know, gets upset, and then they might not want to do business with your company no more. So you have to make sure all that. The cashiers are trained very well and all that good stuff, okay? So basically, when you're troubleshooting inventory and you counting it and you making sure you have a correct count, if anything is missing, you know what you have to do. You have to go back and count again that item, not the whole inventory. If you're missing, say, milk, you have to go back and count milk again to see that you counted correctly the first time. If you did count it correctly the first time, then that's when you do what? Correct. Go to your invoice to see if that milk came in, because maybe that milk didn't come in, and that's why you don't have it. But if that's correct, then you remember we said you go to your weigh sheet. That means did it get dropped and bust all over the place, or did somebody have to throw it away because the date was expired? You look on your weigh sheet and see if it's on the weigh sheet. If it's not on the weigh sheet, then you know you have a problem. It's missing. You have to take that loss. And then you have other stores that has a partner store right somewhere a couple of miles from them. Say like if it's two stores, two of the same stores. Say you work at one Vet Styles and then it's another Vet Styles store about 4 miles away. Maybe that store came and borrowed a couple of things from you and took it back to their store, but you didn't write it down. Those are called transfers. When you transfer one of your items to another store. So that because maybe that store ran out and they called you and say, hey, y'all got any milk over there? And you say, yeah. And then you let them borrow about 5 milks and they took it to their store. But if didn't nobody write it down, it would look like it's missing when you get ready to do inventory. So those are called transfers. So as soon as you transfer an item to another store, you have to write that down. 5 milks transferred to store such and such. All your stores have numbers. Transferred to this store 4 miles away or whatever. That way you are accounted for that milk. And then that store will have to bring you your milk back. After you did inventory, you realize it was missing. You be like, oh, that store came and got 5 milks. I forgot about that. And you'll call that store and say, hey, we need our 5 milks back. And they be like, oh, okay. And then you send somebody up there or they'll bring it to you. But that would be your 5 milks that you was missing on your inventory. So it could be, that's why it's missing. But you have to go through all these steps and track all these steps first and troubleshoot to see where those 5 milks are. But if you can, then none of those are the issue, then that means somebody is stealing milk out of your store. Or either that milk really didn't come off the truck, the person just signed that it did. But if the person who signed that it did say, hey, look, I promised you, that milk came off that truck and I seen it, so it ain't about that it didn't come in. Somebody had to steal it. And sometimes those companies will start going through their surveillance camera to see when the truck came, did milk come off that truck? And then once they see that milk did come off that truck, then they know it's a theft problem. Okay, so that's how you track all that stuff. So just be mindful of that. Okay. And that's about it, y'all. So we talked about how to track the liquor and all that good stuff, and to make sure that you have the liquor. And that's about everything that I had to say. Next week we are going to talk about dishonest truck drivers and vendors, your truck delivery people. We're going to talk about the dishonesty that they do for as your vendors and your delivery people. Okay, so we're gonna go over that so that you will know how they can get over on you, because a lot of times these stores have problems with missing items, and it's a lot of it is most likely comes from it wasn't never received off that truck, but you have a person signing and saying it is. So I'm going to tell you the importance of it, and I'm going to tell you how they do it, and we're going to go over the dishonesty of some of these delivery drivers and some of the vendors that you deal with in the company, and how you can troubleshoot that and put a stop to it. Okay, so but anyway, that's all for that. That we just went over your troubleshooting thing, and basically you all knew that anyway. If you had been following through week 1, level 1, all the way through week 8, level 8, you already knew a lot of these things anyway. I just keep programming it inside of your head. And always know, a lot of people always say, well, you know, they have systems now where we don't have to do all of this. We already know that. We talked about this in a previous video. I've always told people, when you know it inside of your head and you're not depending on a computer, your success level inside of any place, inside of any business, inside of any corporation, your level of success will shoot up to the top, because you already know it in your head. And whatever the computer has, you know exactly what you're looking at, because you know how to do it. But people who depend on a computer, most of the time, when that computer crashes, they are lost. Say, I've been in a situation where the computer had crashed, and they could not even get that computer to load back up anymore. They had to bring in a whole new computer. And when they bought in that whole new computer, they had to put in and program everything that was in the old computer inside of the new computer. But guess what? The only person that really knew how to do that was me. Because I not only go by the computer, I know what was going on inside of my head and my files, because I know how to do inventory. You see what I'm saying? So I can help people reprogram a whole new computer with inventory, because I really know the whole process of how to do that. I don't depend on the computer to do it. Sometimes when the computer have a certain number and I have a certain number, I sit there and I would look and study that computer, and I said, nah, that computer wrong. Something's going on with that computer, because it shouldn't be that number. And then you can look and check, and you can find the mistake. And you say, oh, that's the mistake. I knew that wasn't supposed to be like that. And then you can change that mistake. But for a person who just depends on that computer to tell them everything, they don't know how to catch things like that. And the ones who know how to catch things like that are the ones who normally have the higher position and making the most money. Okay, so that's the purpose of me showing y'all how to do it the manually way, how to do it manually, and how to do it with the computer. And everything I'm telling you manually is the exact same thing you do inside the computer. That's how come I've always said at the very beginning, I don't put no charts up here and do it all for you. I let you work with me. That way I know you have it. And then I know that you will be very successful when you go out there in that job field. Okay? So that's all for today. Y'all stay tight, nice. But anyway, it's time for me to go and gain knowledge to prevent blockage. And y'all all know what that means. The more you know, the harder it is for anybody to block you from your goals and your success. And please stay tuned and watch on Sundays when me and Jay's video comes out. And please click like and subscribe. Bye-bye. See y'all next week. And don't forget now, next week we will be talking about the dishonesty of vendors and truck drivers. That way you will know how to pinpoint what's going on when your deliveries come. Okay? All right. See y'all later. Bye-bye. See you next week.